Sit back and enjoy an hour of fascinating facts you didn't know. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let's get started. Scorpions glow a bright bluish-green color under ultraviolet light. This phenomenon is due to fluorescent substances in their exoskeleton, which react when exposed to UV radiation. Thanks to this, researchers can easily locate them at night with special flashlights, and it is believed that this characteristic may also help them detect light levels in their environment. If you are afraid of cheese, you have something called turophobia. Although it may sound curious, it is a rare, specific phobia that can cause intense rejection, anxiety, or even nausea when seeing, smelling, or thinking about cheese. Like other phobias, it is not related to a simple dislike, but to a disproportionate reaction, and in some cases, it can be treated with psychological therapy to reduce the fear response. There is a social anxiety called parthenophobia, where there is an abnormal and persistent fear of young girls, specifically virgins, and it is rare. A Filipino fisherman found a natural pearl weighing 75 pounds and kept it hidden under his bed for 10 years. He discovered it in a giant clam and kept it as a good luck charm. It has 170,000 carats. Queen Elizabeth and her husband, Prince Philip, were third cousins, since they both descended from the same great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria. In addition, they were also related through another European branch, which was common among royal families of the time, where marriages served to maintain alliances between different monarchies. Hurricane names are recycled every 6 years, with the exception of hurricanes that have been so deadly and costly that the future use of their name for a different storm would be insensitive. When that happens, the name is permanently retired from the list and replaced with another. This system is managed by the World Meteorological Organization, which maintains predefined lists for different regions and facilitates clear communication during emergencies. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and NASA, July 2023 became the hottest month ever recorded globally since modern measurements began, surpassing previous records. This milestone reflects the ongoing trend of rising global temperatures in recent decades. Ancient Egyptians used to put dead mice in people's mouths to treat toothaches. They also crushed dead mice to make a paste with other ingredients and treat patients with pain. The last McDonald's burger and fries in Iceland are on display in a hostel in Reykjavik. Right now, you can even see images in real time through a live stream. A man bought it on October 30th, 2009, and it is still on display. The pink fairy armadillo is the smallest species of armadillo. It measures only 1.6 inches in length and weighs about 3.5 ounces. In addition, it is pink in color. It lives mainly underground in arid regions of Argentina, where it digs tunnels very quickly to avoid predators and extreme heat. Its shell has a pink tone due to blood vessels close to the skin, and it is rarely seen on the surface. The stop sign originated in Detroit, Michigan in 1915 and originally had black letters on a white background. Then it had black letters on a yellow background before finally becoming red and white. The change to red was standardized decades later to improve visibility and associate it with danger, and today its octagonal shape allows it to be recognized even without reading the text. Believe it or not, green peppers are simply less mature versions of red, orange, and yellow peppers. As they ripen on the plant, they change color and develop a sweeter flavor, while green ones tend to be more bitter and firm. They also contain less sugar and certain nutrients compared to their mature versions, which explains their differences in both taste and nutritional value in cooking. Brazilian police on the island of Marajo ride water buffalo when they patrol, instead of horses. These animals adapt better to flooded, muddy terrain and to the frequent rains of the region, where horses would have more difficulty moving. In addition, buffalo are strong, can travel long distances with loads, and are common in the area, which makes them a practical and efficient option for daily duties. There is a genetic disease called fish odor syndrome, where a person excretes an excess of a chemical substance called TMA in their urine, sweat, and breath that makes them smell like rotten fish. Echidnas, also known as spiny anteaters, have a very particular reproductive characteristic. Their reproductive organ has 4 heads. Interestingly, they do not use it to urinate, and it only becomes visible during the reproductive process. The opossum is the only marsupial in North America. It is known for its ability to play dead as a defense mechanism, entering an involuntary state that can last several minutes. In addition, it has notable resistance to venoms such as those from some snakes and helps control pests by feeding on insects, small rodents, and ticks, making it a beneficial animal for its environment. Walmart employs 2.3 million people worldwide. This makes it one of the largest private employers on the planet, with operations in numerous countries. Its enormous workforce ranges from physical stores to distribution centers and digital platforms, allowing it to manage a massive logistics network capable of supplying millions of products daily on a large scale. There is a flower called the corpse flower, which is named that because it smells like rotting and decomposing flesh, and it only blooms every 7 to 10 years. This odor attracts insects such as flies and carrion beetles that act as pollinators. In addition, during its brief blooming, it can generate heat to better disperse the scent, and it can reach impressive heights, making it one of the largest and most striking flowers in the world. Squirrels adopt another squirrel's baby if the parent dies. This behavior has been observed mainly among related females, such as sisters or mothers, which increases the chances of survival for the young within the same family group. In addition, by sharing territory and nearby nests, they can care for the young without a significant additional cost, which favors the genetic continuity of the family in environments where predators and food scarcity represent a constant risk. Apple has sold more than 3 billion iPhones worldwide, establishing it as one of the most successful technology products in history. Since its launch in 2007, the iPhone has evolved with improvements in cameras, performance, and connectivity, influencing the design of the mobile industry. In addition, its ecosystem of applications and services has generated a massive economic impact on developers and digital markets around the world. The crew of Apollo 15 placed a small aluminum sculpture on the moon to commemorate fallen astronauts. In 1971, that number was 14. There is also a plaque with their names. The work, known as Fallen Astronaut, was created by Belgian artist Paul van Hooijdonk and represents all space explorers who had died up to that point, including both Americans and Soviets. There is an isopod called Simithoa exigua that eats the tongues of fish and then becomes the fish's tongue. This crustacean enters through the gills, attaches to the base of the tongue, and cuts off its blood supply until it atrophies. It then anchors itself in place and functions as a replacement tongue, feeding on the host's blood and mucus without killing it, making it a unique case of parasitism. According to researchers from the Donald O. Perlman Department of Dermatology at the New York University School of Medicine, the higher you are in altitude, the greater the risk of sunburn, and it is significantly higher, approximately 60% more. The great white shark is an example of an apex predator, which means that, as an adult, it has no natural predators in its ecosystem. It can reach sizes of more than 19 feet and has an extremely powerful bite, with several rows of teeth that are constantly replaced. Its role in the food chain is key, since it helps maintain the balance of other marine species, especially mammals such as seals and sea lions. Robert Benke, a farmer from Wisconsin, owns the queen of milk production cows. His cow Gigi has produced more milk in 1 year than any other cow, with 8,700 gallons. That is 3 times the national average of what a dairy cow produces in a year. A small bat was seen clinging to the orange external fuel tank of the Space Shuttle Discovery during its launch on March 15, 2009. Despite the intense noise, vibrations, and extreme heat of liftoff, the animal remained attached throughout the countdown, which caught the attention of NASA engineers who documented the event as a rare occurrence in this type of mission. Actor Tom Cruise is only 5 feet 7 inches tall. Throughout his career, this has been managed with production techniques such as camera angles, special footwear, and on-set platforms to maintain visual proportions. Despite this, he has starred in major action hits, performing many of his own stunts, which has helped solidify his image as one of the most recognized figures in Hollywood. The life expectancy of people with Down syndrome has increased from 25 years in 1983 to 60 years today. This progress is related to better medical care, especially for congenital heart conditions, which used to be one of the main causes of mortality. In addition, social inclusion, access to education, and early therapies have allowed for a more active life, with many adults working, living semi-independently, and fully participating in their communities. Gelatin is made from collagen that is produced by boiling the bones, skin, and hides of animals such as cows and pigs. People have been consuming it since 1897, and it represents around 80% of the gelatin market. In addition to its use in food, it is also used in pharmaceutical products, such as capsules, and in the cosmetic industry. Its ability to form gels makes it useful in a wide variety of culinary and technical applications. In California, on July 30th, 2016, 42-year-old skydiver Luke Akins became the first person to jump from an airplane without a parachute or wingsuit. He jumped from 25,000 feet toward the ground, setting a world record for the highest jump. He landed safely in a 100-square-foot net, which is approximately one-third the size of an American football field. On March 3, 1934, the gangster John Dillinger escaped from a jail in Indiana with the help of a wooden gun that had been smuggled to him by one of his lawyers. Researchers at Ohio State University have discovered something they call experience taking. It is when, while reading a book or a story, people actually change their behavior or thoughts to match those of a fictional character in a book or story they can identify with. Unconsciously, they become that character. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, on average, people who smoke die 10 years earlier than non-smokers. For every person who dies as a result of smoking, at least 30 people live with a serious illness related to the habit of smoking. According to research conducted by Eric Prather, an assistant professor of psychiatry at the University of California, you are 4 times more likely to catch a cold if you sleep less than 6 hours per night. In that study, volunteers were exposed to a cold virus, and it was observed that those who slept less developed symptoms more frequently. Sleep directly influences the immune system, affecting the production of defenses, so maintaining regular schedules can reduce the risk of common infections. Abraham Lincoln was in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. He had an imposing physical size of 6 feet 4 inches, was widely known for his wrestling skills, and only had one recorded defeat in 12 years. Biologists led by Koji Nishida at Osaka University have discovered a new way to grow parts of the human eye, such as the retina, the cornea, the lens, and more, simply by using a small sample of adult skin. This advance is based on the reprogramming of cells to turn them into stem cells capable of forming ocular tissues, which opens possibilities for treating diseases such as blindness or corneal injuries without the need for donors, reducing the risk of rejection and improving visual regeneration. Marigolds and other plants that contain the pigment xanthophyll are added to chicken feed so that the yolks of their eggs appear more orange. This pigment is deposited directly into the yolk through the diet, so its color can vary depending on what the hen eats. In many regions, consumers associate more intense yolks with higher quality, so producers adjust the feed to achieve that more attractive tone. According to a study conducted, smells can influence our dreams. Study subjects who were infused with the scent of roses while dreaming had, in almost all cases, pleasant dreams. However, when the air around those subjects was infused with the smell of rotten eggs while dreaming, they had negative dreams. McDonald's in the Netherlands has a placemat called McTracks, where you can make music while you eat. For it to work, you place your phone on the placemat, download an application, and then compose your music, including your voice. The American politician Henry Kissinger was the person who convinced the great Brazilian soccer player Pelé to play in the United States. In the 1970s, during the rise of the North American Soccer League, there was an effort to popularize soccer in the country, and Pelé's arrival at the New York Cosmos helped attract international attention, increase stadium attendance, and spark interest among new generations in the sport across the United States. The Aztec people often used cocoa beans as currency. With them, they could buy food, pay tribute, and even acquire slaves in certain markets. Their value was so established that there were exact measures to count them, and falsifying them by filling them with mud was punished. In addition, cocoa was not only used for trade, but also to prepare beverages reserved for the nobility and warriors. In 1958, Robert Lane of New York City named one of his sons Winner, and later named another son Loser. Winner ended up being a criminal with a long arrest record, and his son Loser attended preparatory school on a scholarship, graduated from college, and joined the New York Police Department. Spiderwebs have antifungal and antiseptic properties that keep bacteria away, minimizing the possibility of infection. In fact, in ancient times, the Greeks and Romans used spiderwebs to treat cuts. Soldiers also used spiderwebs to heal wounds. They combined honey and vinegar to clean the wounds and then covered them with balled-up webs. According to recent evaluations by the firm Interbrand on the best global brands, Apple and Microsoft have remained among the top positions in the global ranking, reflecting their continued influence in the industry. Google also continues as one of the most valuable brands, while Amazon and Samsung are among the most prominent. Together, these companies represent the dominance of the technology sector in brand value worldwide today. In 1998, construction worker Travis Bogomil was accidentally shot with a nail gun that embedded a 3.25-inch nail into his skull. The nail lodged in the area of the brain that normally handles processing mathematics. He was completely fine after the nail was removed, except that his math skills were no longer what they used to be. That dark band you can see between the primary and secondary arcs of a rainbow has a name. It is known as Alexander's band, or the dark band of Alexander, after Alexander of Aphrodisias first described it in the year 200 after Christ. In 2015, astronomers located a gigantic cloud of methanol, an alcohol called methanol, surrounding a stellar nursery that measures more than 310 billion miles across. Over time, this could help astronomers understand how some of the most massive stars in the universe form. The fastest avalanche ever recorded in history was the volcanic explosion of Mount St. Helens on May 18, 1980. The speed reached was 250 miles per hour. This event included a massive landslide and a lateral blast that flattened entire forests in minutes, becoming one of the most studied volcanic disasters and drastically altering the landscape in a matter of seconds. Originally, Yahoo was called Jerry's Guide to the World Wide Web, after one of its creators, Jerry Yang. It was officially incorporated on March 2, 1995. Watermelon is composed of 92% water. In fact, it is an excellent option for staying hydrated and is low in calories. It also provides vitamin C, vitamin A, and antioxidants such as lycopene, which gives it its characteristic red color. In addition, it contains citrulline, a compound related to blood circulation, which makes it a refreshing and nutritious fruit, especially during warm weather. Researchers at Murdoch University in Perth have discovered goldfish up to 12 inches long and weighing up to 4.2 pounds in the Vassie River in southwestern Western Australia. They believe it is the result of people releasing their goldfish into the water. This is because in the wild, that is the size they can reach. There are fireworks that can be launched during the daytime using colored smoke. A study published in the journal Neurobiology of Aging shows that the more flights of stairs a person climbs and the more years of schooling a person completes, the younger the brain appears physically. Researcher Jason Steffner, a scientist at the Perform Center at Concordia, found that brain age decreases 0.95 years for each year of education and decreases 0.58 years for each daily flight of stairs climbed. Some insects smell with their genitals. In species such as certain moths, chemical receptors are located in structures near their reproductive organs, which allows them to detect pheromones with great precision during mating. This ability is so sensitive that they can perceive traces at long distances, even at minimal concentrations, which increases their chances of finding a mate in environments where encounters are infrequent. In the 1500s and 1600s, in some regions of Europe, a device called the scold's bridle, also known as branks, was used as a form of punishment for people considered problematic or quarrelsome. This device consisted of a metal structure placed over the head that restricted speech with the intention of enforcing silence. According to a study published in the Journal of Behavioral Therapy and Experimental Psychiatry, mood can affect how we walk, and vice versa. We walk with slumped shoulders if we are sad, and with a bounce if we are happy. Making people imitate a happy walk actually made them feel happier, and more sad if they imitated a sad way of walking. According to a study conducted by the University of New South Wales, good manners go a long way. The study found that making an extra effort to say thank you makes people see you as someone with greater interpersonal warmth. It can also make you a happier person. The Parliament of Iceland is the oldest still active parliament in the world. It was founded in the year 930. Political meetings typically lasted 2 weeks in June, which was a period of uninterrupted daylight and good weather. It is possible that cats and dogs are allergic to human dander. Dander is made up of tiny cells that shed from hair or skin, and although it is commonly associated with pets, humans also produce it. In some cases, These particles can trigger reactions in sensitive animals such as itching, redness, or sneezing, since their immune system responds to proteins present in human skin in a similar way to other environmental allergies. In India, as well as in other parts of the world, standing babas are people who have taken a vow to never sit, lie down, or squat for 12 years in order to transport their minds to a realm of spiritual consciousness not experienced by those who sit. They stand in front of a small hammock on which they rest their arms during the day and their torso at night. One leg must remain on the ground at all times. The Parliament of Pakistan became one of the first government complexes in the world to operate entirely on solar energy. This change was part of an effort to adopt cleaner energy sources and reduce costs, and today it stands out as an early example of the use of renewable energy in government buildings. A group of porcupines is fittingly called a prickle. In English, the term prickle directly refers to their sharp defenses. Although they are usually solitary animals, they can sometimes gather in small groups, especially in areas with abundant food or shelter. Their quills do not shoot out, but they detach easily upon contact, which makes them a very effective defense against predators. According to neuroscientist Glenn Jeffrey, who studies vision at University College London, the eye color of reindeer changes depending on the time of year. In the summer, they actually turn golden, reflecting more light through the retina, which helps them cope with the nearly continuous daylight of the Arctic summer. In the winter, however, they turn a deep blue to help them cope with the almost continuous darkness of winter. Steve Gerling, the master builder of Lego, had never touched a single Lego before starting his job. Before joining Lego, he had experience in creative fields such as design and illustration, which allowed him to quickly adapt to the use of the blocks. Over time, he developed advanced building techniques and participated in large-scale projects, creating detailed models that combine technical precision with artistic creativity. In the past, some Starbucks cafes in Saudi Arabia had separate areas for different groups of customers, such as single men, women, and families, in line with local social norms of that time. However, these practices have changed over time, and today, many of those restrictions have been relaxed or eliminated as part of more recent social reforms in the country. California rabbits are actually hares, not rabbits. They can reach speeds of 40 miles per hour and jump up to 10 feet into the air. Unlike rabbits, they are born with their eyes open and with full fur, which allows them to move shortly after birth. Their large ears not only improve their hearing, but also help regulate their temperature in the warm climates of the Southwest. There are moonquakes on the moon that are similar to our earthquakes, only they are weaker and less common. In fact, there are 4 known types: deep moonquakes, shallow moonquakes, thermal moonquakes, and meteorite moonquakes. Apollo 16 astronaut Charles Duke, who at that time was the youngest human in history at 36 years old to walk on the moon, left a photo of his family with the inscription, "This is the family of astronaut Charlie Duke from the planet Earth, who landed on the moon on April 20th, 1972. There is a Starbucks at the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, where workers undergo intense background checks before being hired. They are not allowed to put customers' names on any of the cups, and, believe it or not, it is one of the busiest Starbucks locations in the country. The Lehigh Ledoux Wildlife Zoo in Chongqing, China, places visiting people in cages instead of the animals. The cages are stocked by lions and tigers, so guests are warned to keep their fingers and hands inside the cage at all times. Canada is the largest country in the Western Hemisphere and has the longest coastline. Its territory stretches from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific and the Arctic, giving it thousands of miles of coastline with a great diversity of landscapes. This vast coast includes fjords, islands, and nearly untouched regions, and it plays a key role in fishing, trade, and the lives of many coastal communities. Since 2003, the Japanese town of Kamikatsu has worked to become a zero-waste community. Although its initial goal was to achieve this by the year 2020, the project is still ongoing. Currently, they recycle around 80% of their waste and separate materials into dozens of categories, becoming a global reference in sustainability and waste management. In 2007, a priest was arrested for stalking late-night talk show host Conan O'Brien. He wrote threatening notes on parish letterhead, contacted his parents, and showed up at his studio. He referred to himself as his stalking priest. In the 1990s, Saddam Hussein commissioned the creation of a version of the Quran written in a very unusual way, using his own blood as ink. Approximately 1.8 gallons of blood were extracted over a period of 2 years. Voyager 2 was launched on August 20th, 1977, and Voyager 1 was launched on September 5th. They were sent on different trajectories, and Voyager 1 was placed on a path to reach Jupiter and Saturn before Voyager 2. Rockefeller Center receives an average of around 470,000 people on a typical weekday, and during the holiday season, the number can approach 800,000 people per day, making it one of the busiest places in the city. The coconut crab grows more than 3 feet long and is not only the largest land crab, but also the largest arthropod, the group that includes insects, spiders, and crustaceans. It can lift surprisingly heavy objects with its claws and climb trees to feed, including coconuts that it opens with great force. It has a highly developed sense of smell, similar to that of insects, and can live for several decades on islands in the Indian and Pacific Oceans. The ALS Association received around $115 million in donations in 2014, compared to approximately $2.8 million the previous year, driven by the money raised through the Ice Bucket Challenge. Part of these funds has been allocated to research that contributed to advances such as the identification of new genes associated with the disease and the development of treatments. The warehouse scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark was actually a matte painting created by artist Michael Pangrazio. It took him 3 months to create it. It was painted on glass, and the live-action shots were filmed through a hole in it. Most meteors are actually the size of a grain of sand and disintegrate in the air. The larger ones that actually reach the Earth are called meteorites and are very rare. As they enter the atmosphere at high speed, they produce the glow known as a shooting star, caused by friction with the air. Every day, thousands of these particles enter, although almost all of them burn up before touching the ground. According to a study conducted by Japanese researcher Hiroshi Nitono, looking at images of cute animals such as puppies and pandas at work not only improves your mood, but also increases your attention to detail and overall performance. In Shanghai, your credit score can be lowered for not sending greetings or not visiting your elderly parents. Scientists estimate that a single ragweed plant can release 1 billion grains of pollen over the course of a single season, and they can travel hundreds of miles with a light breeze. This pollen is one of the main causes of seasonal allergies, since its particles are very light and easily inhaled. Even low concentrations can trigger intense symptoms, which explains why ragweed affects so many people during late summer and fall. Jupiter is the 4th brightest object in our solar system. Only the Sun, the Moon, and Venus are brighter. It is one of the 5 planets that can be seen from Earth with the naked eye. Its large size and atmosphere with reflective clouds make it stand out in the night sky, often with a steady brightness that does not twinkle like stars, which makes it easy to recognize even without a telescope. Boston has poems on its sidewalks that can only be seen when it rains. They are painted with a special waterproof paint that only appears when it is wet. To capture street view imagery of a desert, Google hires camels to carry its Trekker camera. This portable system allows images to be captured in places where vehicles cannot access, such as dunes or narrow paths. Thanks to this, areas like deserts and remote sites have been documented, expanding Google Street View coverage with unique routes that would otherwise be difficult to record. During the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games, the procession is always led by the Greek team, followed by the other teams in alphabetical order, and the last team is always the host country. 40 or 50 million years ago, the climate of Antarctica was very similar to that of present-day California. During that period, known as the Eocene, there were temperate forests with trees and diverse fauna instead of ice. Over time, changes in the position of the continents and ocean currents isolated the region, causing progressive cooling that transformed the continent into the frozen desert we know today. On January 12, 2011, 49 of the 50 states had snow on the ground. That is nearly 71% of the country. The only state without snow was Florida. This event was due to an intense cold wave that affected much of the United States, combined with several consecutive winter storms which allowed snow to cover unusual regions, including southern areas where this phenomenon is rare. According to a report by Michael Gibson Light, a doctoral candidate at the School of Sociology at the University of Arizona, ramen noodles are now more popular than tobacco as currency in United States prisons. I do not blame them. They are delicious. When lobsters fight or court each other, they actually spray urine at each other's faces from small urine release nozzles beneath their eyes. This behavior functions as a form of chemical communication, since the urine contains signals that indicate size, reproductive status, and level of aggression. During these encounters, lobsters also move their antennae to better perceive these signals, which helps them decide whether to continue the confrontation or withdraw without direct physical contact. In South Korea, if you win gold at the Asian Games or any medal at the Olympic Games, you are exempt from the country's military service, which is mandatory for eligible men. Instead of full service, athletes must complete a reduced period of basic training and activities related to their discipline. And this benefit has also been extended to some outstanding artists under certain conditions. To honor Jamaican sprinter Usain Bolt, Berlin gave him his own piece of the Berlin Wall that was 12 feet tall. It weighed nearly 3 tons. He is not going to take that home, right? The female loggerhead sea turtle sometimes travels thousands of miles to return to the beach where her eggs were laid. They use the Earth's magnetic field as a kind of natural map to navigate during their migrations. This behavior, called philopatry, makes them return with great precision to the same nesting site, even after many years, facing dangers such as predators, pollution, and fishing nets along the way. In 1964, a pair of Australian scientists, Isabel Joy Baer and R.G. Thomas, conducted a study to determine what causes that powerful and wonderful smell of fresh rain. They determined that it is a mixture of plant oils secreted by some plants after a dry period, bacterial spores, and ozone. Kamikaze ants from Southeast Asia explode when they are under threat. They have a toxic substance in their heads and in 2 large glands on the sides of their bodies that are filled with venom. Under threat, they literally explode their heads or rupture their bodies to spray the venom and cover the predator. The Olm salamander has a maximum lifespan of more than 100 years. This cave-dwelling amphibian, known for its pale skin and lack of pigmentation, lives in dark caves in Europe and can go long periods without feeding, reducing its metabolism to a minimum. In addition, its slow pace of life and limited exposure to predators contribute to its extraordinary longevity compared to other amphibians. The parks of the Walt Disney Company can deny entry or request that a person leave the premises if their appearance does not meet their dress code standards. This includes tattoos that are considered offensive or inappropriate according to their policies, which aim to maintain a family-friendly environment for all visitors. The Olympic Games in 2016 in Rio de Janeiro were the first time in Olympic history that a South American country hosted the Games. The event brought together more than 10,000 athletes from around the world and marked a historic moment for the region. In addition, it included new sports such as golf and rugby sevens, expanding the Olympic program and attracting new audiences. It has been discovered that seawater in the Port of Boston in Massachusetts Bay contains caffeine. Although the traces are tiny, they are present, from 40 to 16 nanograms in the Port of Boston and from 5.2 to 71 nanograms in Massachusetts Bay. These compounds mainly arrive through treated wastewater, since caffeine is a common indicator of human activity, and its presence helps scientists track emerging contaminants in marine ecosystems. Graviki Labs, based in India, has found a way to use pigment from carbon soot in polluted air to manufacture pens, oil paints, and spray paint. A single air ink pen contains 30 to 40 minutes of carbon emissions from a single car. A tiger's stripes are on its skin, not just in its fur. Even if its hair is shaved, the pattern is still visible, since the pigmentation is part of the dermis. Each tiger has a unique design, similar to a fingerprint, which allows them to be identified in conservation studies. These stripes also help them camouflage among vegetation by breaking up their outline. NASA's robotic spacecraft Juno traveled a total distance of 1,740,000,000 miles to reach the planet Jupiter. It was launched from Cape Canaveral on August 5, 2011, and arrived at Jupiter on July 4, 2016. Pearls dissolve if they are submerged in vinegar. A pearl is mainly calcium carbonate, which is susceptible even to the weakest acidic solution. When it comes into contact with acetic acid, a reaction occurs that releases small bubbles of carbon dioxide while the surface slowly wears away. For this reason, pearls require special care and should avoid contact with perfumes, sweat, or cleaning products. On March 29, 1867, the United States purchased 586,412 square miles of land in the far northwest of the North American continent, which is now the state of Alaska, from Russia. They paid $7.2 million, which was equivalent to about 2 cents per acre. In medieval times, bras were called breast bags. These garments were simpler than modern designs and were worn under clothing to provide support or shape the figure. In some historical records, they appear as linen pieces with straps that were tied to the body, and although they were not common in all regions, they show that the idea of supporting the chest with a specific garment has existed for centuries. The Witwatersrand Basin in South Africa, which is only 2.7 square miles, has produced more gold than any other continent, about 50,000 tons over 120 years, which is nearly half of all the gold ever mined. In the United States, the government can legally read any email you have that is more than 180 days old without a warrant. The Electronic Communications Privacy Act was enacted long before everyone had email, but the government claims the law still allows them to do this. There are only 4 commonly used words in the English language that end in "deuce." They are tremendous, horrendous, stupendous, and hazardous. There is a pub in Athlone, Ireland, called Sean's Bar, that has been open since the year 900 after Christ. Cats can suffer from something called whisker stress when eating or drinking from a bowl that is too small. Whiskers are very sensitive to pressure, and every time they touch something, a sensation is triggered in the cat. If you see your cat trying to scoop food out with its paw, it could mean it has whisker stress. AT&T reported that, on average, more collect calls are made on Father's Day than on other days of the year. Although the total volume of calls is higher on Mother's Day, with figures close to 106 million compared to about 83 million on Father's Day, the proportion of collect calls is approximately 27% higher on Father's Day. According to a study conducted by NASA, an astronaut's heart becomes more spherical and loses muscle mass while in space. Once they return to Earth, however, its shape returns to normal. This happens due to microgravity, which reduces the effort needed to pump blood, causing temporary changes in the heart muscle. For this reason, astronauts follow daily exercise routines to maintain their physical condition during missions. There is a company based in Switzerland that, for the modest sum of $29,000, will name your baby for you. This type of service includes linguistic, cultural, and meaning studies to create unique or uncommon names. In many cases, it is also checked that the name works in different languages and does not have negative connotations, something especially valued by international families or public figures. In 1980, Detroit gave Saddam Hussein the key to the city. The recognition was related to a donation made to a local church and to the ties of the Arab community in the area during that period. A farmer from Pike County and loyal Democrat, Valentine Tapley, swore he would never trim his beard again if Abraham Lincoln were elected president in 1860. He kept his word, and his beard grew to 12.5 feet long. Tigers have a retinal adaptation that reflects light back to the retina, which makes their night vision 6 times better than that of humans. This structure, known as the tapetum lucidum, acts like a mirror that makes the most of the little light available in the dark. Thanks to this, they can hunt with great precision at dusk, and it is also the reason their eyes shine when illuminated at night. LSD, or acid, was legal in California until 1966. Its use became popular during the 1960s, especially in cultural and experimental contexts, before being banned due to concerns about its psychological effects. After it was made illegal, it became a controlled substance throughout the United States, although in recent years, there has been renewed scientific interest in studying its possible therapeutic applications under strict medical conditions. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, since 1973, 156 people have been exonerated and released from death row. In 2006, Haoshang Hospital in Japan decorated its maternity ward with Hello Kitty-themed murals and items to help calm anxious mothers. The cartoon character appears everywhere, from the walls to blankets for newborn babies. A giant Hello Kitty figure dressed in a pink medical uniform even greets visitors in the lobby. The male blanket octopus, the size of a walnut, tears off the tentacles of passing Portuguese man-of-war jellyfish as a defense mechanism. With them, it protects itself from predators, since those tentacles remain venomous even after being detached. In addition, the female can be several times larger than the male, which makes this behavior even more striking in one of the most unusual species in the ocean. The richest man in Hong Kong, billionaire Li Ka-shing, yes, that is his real name, dropped out of school before turning 16. He has an estimated net worth of $20,100,000,000. He started working in a plastics factory and over time founded his own business, expanding into real estate, telecommunications, and ports, building one of the most influential business empires in Asia. In 1978, serial killer Rodney Alcala appeared on a game show called The Dating Game and won. Researchers from McGill University in Montreal, Canada, raised a fish called Polypterus. It can breathe air and walk on land using its front fins. In controlled experiments, some specimens were raised out of water for extended periods, developing changes in their anatomy and movement, which provides clues about how early vertebrates may have adapted to land environments millions of years ago. If you leave towels, chairs, or umbrellas overnight to reserve a spot on crowded Italian beaches, authorities will take what you left and charge you a fine of about $220 to recover your property. This practice is prohibited in many coastal areas to prevent people from unfairly reserving public spaces, especially during peak season. Inspectors make rounds at dawn and remove the items, promoting more equal access for all visitors. Actor Steven Seagal received a humanitarian award from PETA in 1999 for preventing the export of baby elephants from South Africa to Japan. According to the Guinness World Records, the only man who has been struck by lightning 7 times was former park ranger Roy C. Sullivan. He suffered the loss of a toenail, lost his eyebrows, had a shoulder injury, burns on his legs, and an ankle injury, burns on his chest and stomach, and his hair caught fire twice. In 1965, 16-year-old high school student Randy Gardner stayed awake for 11 days and 24 minutes. That is 265 consecutive hours. He holds the record for a human staying awake intentionally, without the use of stimulants. The mother and the first wife of Theodore Roosevelt both died on Valentine's Day in 1884. His mother died of typhoid fever, and 12 hours later, his wife died of Bright's disease and complications from giving birth to the couple's first child 2 days earlier. There are no natural lakes in the state of Maryland. All the lakes are artificial, created by damming rivers. Many of them were built for water supply, flood control, or recreation, and today they are an important part of the local landscape. The largest moon of Jupiter, Ganymede, has an ocean of salt water buried under 95 miles of ice. Scientists estimate that it is 60 miles deep, which is about 10 times deeper than our oceans. In 2003, professional wrestler Macho Man Randy Savage released a rap album called Be a Man. In Las Vegas, an average of 5 to 7 adults are reported missing every day, and more than 200 per month. An Australian crocodile measuring 19 feet long has a bite force of 3,700 pounds. That is the highest bite force ever recorded. This power is due to the extremely robust musculature of its jaw, designed to firmly hold large prey. In addition, its teeth are not made for chewing, but for gripping and spinning prey in the water in a movement known as the death roll, which helps tear it apart. According to National Geographic, about a century ago, there were around 100,000 wild tigers in Asia. Over time, factors such as habitat loss and illegal hunting drastically reduced their population. In recent years, it is estimated that only a few thousand remain in the wild, although conservation efforts have managed to stabilize and even slightly increase their numbers in some regions. The owner of the gin tub in Brighton, England, had a Faraday cage built into the roof to block cell phone reception. He wants his customers to socialize the old-fashioned way, by actually talking to each other. At the 2008 Olympic Games in Beijing, white mice were fed food 24 hours before feeding the athletes to protect them from food poisoning. If there was a problem, the food could be traced and destroyed before being served to the athletes. 47% of the world's mail volume is handled by the United States Postal Service. This enormous proportion is due to the extensive logistics network that covers the entire country, including rural and remote areas, with millions of daily shipments. In addition, its infrastructure allows it to process and sort large amounts of correspondence quickly, relying on automated centers and a transportation fleet that operates continuously. Hippopotomonstrosis quipidalia phobia means a morbid fear of long words. The term is ironically one of the longest words in the language, and it is not usually used in formal medical contexts, where sesquipedalia phobia is preferred. The term CAPTCHA stands for Completely Automated Public Turing Test to tell computers and humans apart. According to Professor Charles B. Gerba of the Department of Soil, Water, and Environmental Science at the University of Arizona, 20% of office coffee mugs carry fecal bacteria. The voice of Chewbacca from Star Wars was created using vocalizations of bears, as well as the sound of walruses, badgers, and the howls of sick animals. A giant granite ball in the Russian city of Yekaterinburg was painted to look like a giant Pokeball. Canada is larger than the entire European Union. In fact, it is 33 times larger than Italy and 15 times larger than France. Albert Einstein actually had an illegitimate daughter who was born in 1902. It is believed that her name was Liesel, and that she was the result of his relationship with Mileva Maric before they married. Her existence became known through personal letters discovered years later, although her fate remains a mystery, as there are no clear records of her later life, and some historians suggest that she may have died in infancy or been given up for adoption. There is a hangover clinic in Sydney, Australia. For the astonishing sum of $200, you can receive a 1-hour treatment that includes half a gallon of hydration fluids, oxygen therapy, and vitamins to help you recover from a night of too much alcohol. According to the Guinness World Records, the first human cannonball was a woman named Rosa Zazel Richter in 1877. She was fired a distance of about 20 feet at the Westminster Aquarium in London, England. Austrian inventor Valentin Vodev has invented a hybrid of a skateboard and a stroller. With just the press of a button, the stroller transforms into a skateboard and can travel at a speed of up to 10 miles per hour. According to a report from the National Center for Health Statistics of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, American men now weigh an average of 196 pounds, 15 pounds more than 20 years ago, and women weigh 168 pounds on average, which is 16 pounds more than 20 years ago. There used to be a sport called ferret legging, where a ferret is placed inside a contestant's pants without underwear. The contestant is whoever can endure the teeth and claws for the longest time. In the United Kingdom and Ireland, you can buy insurance against cyberbullying. The insurance company Chubb will pay up to $74,600 to help with legal costs and relocation expenses. Most Bolivian families have a dried llama fetus under the foundations of their homes for good luck. They are most commonly found in Bolivia's witches' market, where you can also find toad talismans, owl feathers, and stone amulets. The unborn offspring of a female sea louse actually chew their way out from inside the mother in order to be born. In the 1904 Summer Olympic Games, gymnast George Iser won 3 gold medals, 2 silver, and 1 bronze, all while using a wooden prosthetic leg. He competed in St. Louis, where he stood out in several events in a single day, something uncommon. His achievement is considered one of the most surprising in Olympic history, as he overcame a major physical limitation with discipline and skill. A 63-year-old Tasmanian woman gave birth to her first baby in August 2016, becoming the oldest first-time mother in Australia. Lawn darts with sharp, elongated tips are banned in Canada. These games, known as lawn darts, were removed from the market after several serious accidents, especially involving children, due to their heavy metal tips. The ban aims to prevent injuries, as they could cause serious harm when falling from a height, which also led to similar restrictions in other countries, such as the United States. Bill Gates received an honorary knighthood from Queen Elizabeth, but because he is American, he cannot use the title Sir. In the ancient Olympic Games, women were not allowed to compete, and married women were not even allowed to be in the stands to watch. Only young and unmarried women were allowed. Fathers would bring their daughters in the hope that they would marry one of the champions. There is something called elimination communication, where instead of using diapers, parents learn to use timing, signals, and cues to know when their baby needs to go to the bathroom. This practice is common in several cultures and can begin from the first months of life, helping reduce diaper use and strengthen the connection between the caregiver and the baby. Over time, some children develop greater body awareness and gain control of their elimination habits earlier. Vampire bats have a protein in their saliva that acts as an anticoagulant, which keeps the blood of their victims flowing while they feed. Researchers have been studying it to see if it can help dissolve blood clots and aid stroke victims. Dwayne Johnson played American football for the Calgary Stampeders of the CFL in 1995, before dedicating himself to wrestling and acting. He was part of the team in the preseason as a defensive lineman, although he did not play official games and was released months later. After that stage, he decided to follow in his family's footsteps in wrestling, where he achieved worldwide fame before becoming one of the biggest movie stars. Apple has managed to recover gold and other valuable materials through the recycling of devices such as iPhone, iPad, and Mac. These initiatives are part of its sustainability programs, through which important resources are reused. Gold is often used in consumer electronics because it is highly resistant to corrosion and an excellent conductor of electricity. And although silver conducts better, it deteriorates more easily. There is a signpost forest just outside Watson Lake, Yukon. It began in 1942 when a soldier named Carl K. Lindley was injured while working on the Alaska Highway. He was taken to the Army Air Station in Watson Lake to recover, and while he was there, he felt homesick. So he decided to put up a sign from Danville, Illinois, his hometown. Tourists continued the tradition, and today there are 72,000 signs from around the world. According to a study in the Journal of Hand Therapy, millennials have weaker muscles in their hands due to all the texting, photos, scrolling, and gaming they do, especially men. The positive side is that they have stronger thumbs. President Calvin Coolidge had a pet raccoon named Rebecca. It was originally supposed to be eaten at his White House Thanksgiving dinner in 1926, but the Coolidge family found her friendly and docile and decided to keep her as a pet instead. Since the first nuclear test explosion on July 16, 1945, at least 8 nations have detonated 2,054 nuclear test explosions at dozens of test sites around the world. The oldest lighthouse in the world is the Tower of Hercules in Spain. It was erected in the 1st century and is still operational. Of Roman origin, it has been restored several times over the centuries to remain in service. Today, it is a World Heritage Site and continues to guide vessels along the Atlantic coast, combining its historical value with modern maritime signaling technology. Lyme disease received its name because it was first recognized in 1975, when researchers found that a large number of children in Lyme, Connecticut, were being diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. The mantis shrimp can strike with a speed equal to that of a bullet, 50 times faster than a blink. In fact, a strike from a mantis shrimp can easily break the shell of a crab or a mollusk. This attack also generates a small cavitation bubble that collapses and produces a flash of light and momentary heat, amplifying the impact. Thanks to this ability, it is one of the most effective predators in the ocean and can even crack aquarium glass if it feels threatened. You can now hire an autonomous taxi in Singapore. During the testing period, the cars had a driver in the front seat who could take control at any moment and a researcher in the back monitoring the computers. They are equipped with a detection system that uses lasers to function like radar and 2 cameras on the dashboard to scan obstacles and detect changes in traffic light. If you were to drop a steel ball and a rubber ball of the same size from the same height, the steel ball will bounce higher because it regains its original shape faster than the rubber ball. The Maya considered slightly crossed eyes to be beautiful. Parents of babies would hang objects, such as stones, right between their children's eyes to try to make them cross-eyed. This practice was associated with aesthetic ideals and also with cultural beliefs linked to the elite, as it was thought to evoke traits of certain deities. In addition, in artistic representations and sculptures, figures with this characteristic can be observed, which suggests that it was a valued symbol within their society. Robert F. Kennedy failed the 3rd grade. Smaller than his brothers, Bobby was often considered the weak one in the family, and he even attended nearly a dozen schools. Despite those beginnings, over time he developed strong academic discipline and a determined personality, which led him to stand out in college and later in public life as an influential figure in United States politics. San Francisco is the first major city in the United States to require all new buildings to have solar panels installed on the roof. The measure, approved in 2016, applies to low-rise constructions and includes solar systems or green roofs. This initiative aims to reduce emissions, promote clean energy, and decrease electricity consumption, becoming a reference for other cities that have begun to adopt similar regulations in recent years. The average person has 2 million sweat glands. This disorder is also known as trimethylamminuria and is related to the body's inability to break down that substance in the liver. Although it is usually not dangerous, it can cause significant social difficulties, and in some cases, it is managed with specific diets and certain daily care. In 2006, a woman from Michigan named Lynn Sterling attempted to sell a mummified human skeleton on eBay. eBay removed the listing because it violated its policy against the sale of human remains. According to the Guinness World Records, the oldest tree known to have been planted by humans is 2,300 years old. The sacred fig, or bo tree, was planted in Sri Lanka in the year 288 before Christ. The governments of Iraq and India have imposed internet blackouts during exams to prevent students from cheating. The Concorde aircraft, which had its final flight in 2003 at a top speed of 1,350 miles per hour, could fly from London, England to New York City in about 3 hours, approximately half the time of other passenger planes. It flew at more than twice the speed of sound, producing the characteristic sonic boom, and during the flight, passengers could see the curvature of the Earth and the sky darken slightly due to the altitude reached. The barrel-eye fish has a completely transparent head. It lives at depths of about 6,560 to 8,530 feet, where darkness approaches absolute black. Its tube-shaped eyes are oriented upward to detect silhouettes of prey, but they can rotate forward when it feeds. Inside its head, these organs can be clearly seen, protected by a fluid that maintains their sensitivity in that extreme environment. It is possible that a venomous snake, even after being separated from its body for a time, can still bite reflexively and inject venom. According to Stephen Beaupre, these animals can maintain certain reflexes active for a short period. In species such as cobras or rattlesnakes, the bite is one of those reflexes, so it is recommended to always keep a distance and exercise caution. Dyslexics see numbers and letters backward. It is a reading disorder, not a vision disorder, which means that Braille readers can also be dyslexic. Dyslexia is related to the way the brain processes written language, affecting word decoding, fluency, and spelling. It can present in different ways and is not linked to intelligence, so many people develop strategies to adapt. According to research conducted and published in the journal Chemosensory Perception, people who scored high on a psychopathy test had more difficulty distinguishing different smells and also identifying odors. In other words, if your sense of smell is impaired, you could be a psychopath. After Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, his body was taken on a 2-week, 994-mile journey by train. It was accompanied by the body of his son, William Wallace Lincoln, who had died of typhoid fever at only 11 years old and had been buried in the Washington, D.C. area in 1862. The train made a route through 400 railroad stations, and viewings were organized where his body was displayed for mourners. According to the Guinness World Records, the largest mouth in the world belongs to the bowhead whale. It can measure up to 16 feet long, 13 feet high, and 8 feet wide. Its tongue alone weighs nearly 2,000 pounds. This enormous size allows it to filter large amounts of water to feed on small organisms such as krill, using baleen instead of teeth, and it can consume tons of food in a single day during peak feeding seasons. Researchers found one of the first Iron Maidens in a castle in Nuremberg, Germany. An Iron Maiden is a device where a person is placed inside a sarcophagus with spikes on the inner surface. The Chinese giant salamander is the largest living amphibian in the world and can grow up to 6 feet long. It inhabits cold, mountainous rivers in China, where it spends most of its time hidden under rocks. It is a nocturnal predator that feeds on fish, crustaceans, and other small animals, and it uses its highly sensitive skin to detect vibrations in the water. It is currently critically endangered due to habitat loss and hunting. Tibetan nuns can change their core body temperatures with a form of meditation called Gautamo. Using electroencephalograms and temperature measurements, a team of researchers recorded the internal temperature of the nuns in the freezing cold of the Himalayas. The nuns were able to raise their core body temperature to nearly 101 degrees Fahrenheit. In the year 1890, inventor Ludwig Eitler invented an alarm mechanism that was built into a bed. When you set the alarm for a specific time, the bed would raise to a 45-degree angle and throw you out of it. It was not successful. In 1881, dentist Alfred Southwick had the idea for the electric chair after witnessing a strange accident in which an intoxicated man died after accidentally touching the terminal of a live generator. Southwick thought that electricity could offer a faster method of execution and collaborated with engineers and politicians to develop it, which led to its adoption in the state of New York in the late 19th century. Some seabirds, such as the penguin, have a supraorbital gland located just above their eyes that can remove sodium chloride from their bloodstream. It works like our kidneys removing salt, which allows the penguin to survive without access to fresh water. The penguin excretes the salt byproduct as brine through its beak. Argyria is a condition that turns a person's skin a bright blue color. It is caused by chronic exposure to silver. A man from California named Paul Carrison developed this after using a special silver-based preparation to treat a skin condition and drinking colloidal silver, a product that consists of silver particles suspended in liquid. The female Burmese python incubates its eggs by raising its body temperature up to 7 degrees above the air temperature. They achieve this through frequent shivering or muscle spasms. This behavior, known as shivering thermogenesis, allows them to maintain stable conditions for embryo development. During this period, the mother remains coiled around the eggs, protecting them from predators and regulating the humidity of the environment. According to a study conducted by researchers at the Harvard School of Public Health, drinking several cups of coffee per day was associated with a lower likelihood of certain mental health problems in both men and women. The results suggested a possible relationship between moderate coffee consumption and a reduced risk. In Peru, fried or roasted guinea pig is considered a delicacy known as cuy. It has been a staple in the diet of Peru for about 5,000 years. Since pre-Incan times, it has been raised in rural households due to its easy maintenance and nutritional value, and today it remains a traditional dish present in festivities and celebrations in various regions of the country. There is an inn in Idaho called Dog Bark Park Inn, where guests can stay inside the largest beagle in the world. You enter the body of the beagle from a second-floor platform. Going up another level toward the dog's head, there is a loft, and there is additional sleeping space in a cozy nook in the snout. According to the Guinness World Records, the United States holds the record for the highest number of medals won in a single Summer Olympic Games. In the 1904 Olympics, held in St. Louis, Missouri, they won 78 gold medals, 82 silver, and 79 bronze, for a total of 239. The web of the golden silk orb weaver spider is so strong that it can capture a bird, and then the spider eats it. Its silk combines strength and elasticity, being stronger than steel of the same thickness, which allows it to absorb impacts without breaking. Although it is rare, cases of small birds being trapped in these webs have been documented, especially in tropical regions where these spiders build large and dense webs. The first technical casualty of the Civil War died during a 100-gun salute. A cannon fired prematurely and killed soldier Daniel Huff of the 1st United States Artillery. The incident occurred at Fort Sumter just before the fighting began, which makes his death considered the first related to the conflict, even though it did not happen in direct battle.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe so you don't miss more interesting content. Leave your comments and click on any of these videos. See you next time.